today. You might remember a few videos back, I took a bit of a dive into all of the various homeschooling methods, and today I wanted to dive in a little bit further into one of our favourite ways for us to learn, and that is the unit study method. When you consider school, generally the first thing that comes to mind are subject-based classes, where the child rotates through various class sessions, covering each subject independently from the other. So whilst this formula for education is covered widely in most schools and in a lot of homeschools, it is not always an ideal way for all children. After all, life isn't compartmentalised into neat little tiny boxes now, is it? There are no subjects in everyday life. Everything is just interwoven together into one big melting pot of experiences. Therefore, I just think it seems natural to learn in this manner also. Why shouldn't we pull what we do in life into the classroom, where all topics are interconnected and not separated out and delivered piece by piece? This is where the homeschool unit study steps in. In my opinion, one of the most natural ways to learn about a topic or a theme is via an all-encompassing unit. Before we get into the actual unit study method, let's take a moment to look at a typical school day via subject-based learning. The children enter the classroom and they may start their day with, say, math. They may do a worksheet, some math activities. Once they're completed with their math, they'll move on to possibly a completely different topic. Spelling or grammar, creative writing activities for the next half an hour or so. And then relatively quickly, it's also time to close those books and move on once again to a different subject. Finally, in the afternoon, we might see the class progressing through to geography, science, or let's say history. However, as the child progresses throughout their day, not one of these subjects are actually connected in any way to the other. And then this often has children scratching their heads and asking why. Why is this even relevant to me? When topics are taught in this disjointed fashion, it's very often difficult to see the relevancy for children. This is the true beauty of the unit study method, where all subjects are combined to follow along with one main topic or theme. Grouping by theme allows us to look at overarching topics as opposed to stand-alone subjects. Instantly, the learning is more connected. How each of the components of a unit study work together to provide a clear overview. Possibly, you have a child that is completely enamored with, let's say, boats and all things water transport. In its simplest form, a unit study on boats would basically cover as many of the core subjects as possible. All of your regular subject types can be covered in this fashion, such as science, geography, history, language arts, and even mathematics. The entire learning experience for a period of time will completely revolve around boats, or whatever topic it is that you and your child have chosen together. Of course, depending on the topic chosen, it can sometimes be a little challenging to seek out all of the various lesson plans and activity ideas needed, and can require a bit of extra planning on your part. However, the child will see a far more cohesive and realistic way of making connections. After all, this is how the majority of us all learn. We immerse ourselves in a topic of interest, and we understand that by doing that, we can easily cover all the subject areas that we need to. Unit studies can also be enjoyed by children of all ages, and it is a fabulous way for homeschooling families to combine all of their children to work together on one single theme. As an example, one part of this collective unit study may be to research boat building. As a family unit, you could choose to read books, both fiction and non-fiction, watch documentaries, or even head out on a field trip to your local boat builders. All of these activities have been completed together as a group. There are no separate lesson plans, and each child will take in information at varying levels based on where they are at academically. From there, each child could then move on to completing their very own report on the boat building process. For a preschool child, this may simply be drawing a picture and narrating about what they've learned whilst you scribe the information onto the page for them. Beginning writers may benefit from a small copywork piece here, a small snippet of information written out that they can carefully copy into their notebook. Whereas an upper primary age child may be at the stage where they can recall enough information to be able to go forward and write about the topic. At this stage, some of the older children may choose to conduct further research as more questions pop up. And so each piece of work from children across various ages will be completely different to their siblings, and they'll be at their own level. The goal is to see progression and improvement in recall, writing mechanics, and research abilities within each child over the years. As you progress gently through your various unit studies, you can choose to focus on certain areas. For example, for this particular report on boats, each child may focus on grammar, but at their own level, or possibly on the mechanics of writing a research report. As you can see, for the home educating parent, you have not had to sit down and prepare several different lessons for each of your children on different topics or subject areas. One or two main group lessons, and then an older child may go off and read a little further on their own. But other than that, there is little other planning required on your behalf. And this is one of the true blessings of the unit study method. At times, it can be difficult to gauge progression with children who follow a unit study approach. Depending on your own desires of what you want to keep track of and those of your governing body, you may need to implement a simple system of checking off on progression. The other thing we probably need to take a look at is that unit studies can possibly be slightly more difficult to mark if this is important to you. Although having a couple of generic rubric style marking sheets would alleviate any major issues in recording to meet your set yearly outcomes if required. So keeping easy yet clearly defined records will show the progression of learning for each child over the years. Whilst following a unit study method, your child will be learning in a completely different sequence to regular school at home programs. However, the benefits should become apparent relatively quickly. There are also many and varied unit studies available online. It's as simple and easy as popping into the Google search engine boat unit study, for example, or boat lesson ideas for grade 4, or learning about boats for kids as another example. These will return you a myriad of options for you to place together your own unit study on boats. Alternatively, just via a quick Google search, you will also find that there are quite a few pre-made unit study packages available, both free and paid options. All the groundwork, planning, and researching has been done for you. Once again, this is where I turn to my friend Google. Enter the topic with unit study after the topic in your search term and browse the results until you find something that looks suitable for you. A great positive to unit studies is the flexibility for family use. They can be as organic, child-led and relaxed as you wish, or you can just as easily take a more structured and planned out approach to your unit study. A few years ago, I picked up a documentary about the Galapagos Islands and Charles Darwin. I had no plans as to where this would take us, yet we had the adventure of a lifetime with this simple beginning of one single documentary. I simply followed the questions my children asked, and we learned so much about the island themselves, the animals that inhabit them, Charles Darwin, evolution, ships, navigation, and exploration. It was a unit study at its finest, and I really didn't plan a thing. So if your current approach to educating your children at home via regular textbooks or workbook style learning is becoming tedious and no longer fun for you or your children, I strongly encourage you to take a closer look at the unit study option. Theme-based learning such as this can truly open so many doorways and have you jumping down a myriad of rabbit trails on different adventures of a lifetime. Unit studies will provide an opportunity for your children to dig deeper where they are desired to do so, to work both together and independently on topics of interest to them. I do hope that has inspired you to jump on in and try out the unit study method in your homeschool. It doesn't necessarily mean that you need to scrap absolutely everything you're doing and completely and only focus on the unit study method. We tend to just do a couple of units throughout the year as an added little adventure of learning. Coming up soon on the channel, I'm going to be planning some of my upcoming units with you here on a video walkthrough. So if you don't want to miss how I sit down and plan my unit studies, you might want to hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss them. As always, thank you so much for being here. Until next time, bye for now.